welcome back to PintheQ Productions, PintheQ Podcast. This is going to be a fun one because this is something I don't know much about, and I know a lot of our viewers do know a lot about fishing, so I think this is going to be exciting for a lot of people. But first and foremost, welcome back. It's been a while since we've had an episode, so I'm excited to get this off the ground again, especially in the great state of Florida, the Sunshine State. I know why they call it that now, because you can't see when you're driving. That's a real thing. So why don't you introduce yourself? Tell everybody who you are.
So I'm Captain Doherty, Fish Responders Charters. Basically, let me back up. Before I was Fish Responders Charters, I was a full-time firefighter paramedic with a couple specialties. I was also with the State Fire Marshal's Office. I was one of those lucky guys to be drawn to be on the hazardous materials team for the State Fire Marshal's Office. And I was also a rescue diver, which was kind of ironic, is I was a ice specialist, a lot of ice diving.
Yeah, you don't have to worry about that here.
No, don't have to worry about it here, thank Christ. So that just kind of, as you know, that just blossomed into a bunch of other things. And while I was doing that, I was on the Pro Bass Tour.
Oh, nice.
For a few years. And
that's exciting.
Followed, it was for the first few years, but it turned into a job, and it started to get a little, I had to take a back seat a little bit to enjoy fishing again, because it was just so consuming. So while I was still on the fire department, I was on the bass tours, traveling around, and then my son came along, and that pretty much
changes everything.
Everything.
Yeah, isn't that true?
And so that's how I started fishing.
So I find it interesting that you mentioned fishing as a, something enjoyable, and once it becomes not enjoyable anymore, then it's no longer a hobby, and then it turns into something else. And one of the things we talk about quite a bit on the show is having something outside of the fire service,
right?
Some other outlet,
escape.
And some kind of escape. Yeah, like for me, one of the things I love to do is I get on my motorcycle. I call it wind therapy.
Yep.
And I just go, and no matter what's going on in my life at that moment, on the motorcycle, and that wind's hitting my face, it's like, okay, I'm at one with the earth, or one with myself.
So I try to get away from. I've been kind of getting away from charters, and hence Fish Responders Charters, and I've been getting more involved in the aspect of water as therapy, and hooking up with some great companies like Next Run.
Oh yeah, Blake and the Next
Run.
Blake
is awesome.
Yeah.
I haven't personally met him yet.
You'll enjoy it.
We're gonna have to change that. Between his accent and mine.
Yeah, I was gonna say, yeah.
Yeah, it's different. So I've gone to him a few times, and we've discussed, me traveling around and popping into firehouses and taking somebody that really needs to get away from the job for a little bit and go fishing.
Yeah, and that's a big thing, man. The fact that you're gonna do that for people is awesome, and we always talk about giving back. As part of what we've had in the fire service, and giving back to others, and this is my way of giving back, is, having like-minded brothers and sisters on the show that have something else to offer and want to discuss their life and their lives and things that they've done in their career that other people need to hear, and this is one of those things. And the reason I specifically brought you onto the show is because I love what you're doing. I love that you have this outlet, that you have this ability to go out there and get on that water and just go. So tell me a little bit about how the fire service started for you. Like, where did it all begin?
So basically, up north, I was part of the good old civil service deal.
Yeah.
Just keep taking the test.
Until you pass, yeah.
Taking the test. Taking the test. And then going on some lists, and I got chosen off of a couple of lists and went in, interviewed, and then mine was a little different. I was under the gun. I was basically told by one of the departments that wanted to hire me that I had 3 weeks to get my paramedic license. Wow. I had just finished paramedic.
Wow.
So I had 3 weeks to take my, if I got my paramedic, I got the job. So I ended up signing up for the paramedic exam. I took it 3 times in 1 week.
Holy cow.
I took it twice in New Hampshire, and then I took it once in Massachusetts.
Yeah, and paramedic, it's, I was an EMT for 30 years, and it was good to have. It's, it's awesome. But paramedic is like that next level. It's difficult, man.
Yeah, cardiology, pharmacology, all
Yeah.
that stuff, and even today, now what these guys are doing,
Yeah.
it's just crazy. And New England was kind of the spearhead of paramedic, other than California, with the old Squad 51.
Oh yeah,
All
that was a great
oh,
show.
that was a great
I
show.
grew up on
I
that
love
show.
I still watch that
Station
show.
51, KMG 365.
So, yeah, and it's just a whole different ball game today. I'm talking, now I'm going to date myself, I'm talking 20 something years ago
Right.
when I became a paramedic, and it was still intense. The pharmacology, like I said, and the
Yeah.
cardiology and all that. And, you know, and then you're scared to death that you're going to, you know, and everybody that's on the job is going to realize what I'm saying is you're going to get yanked off the engine.
Yeah. That's what would terrify me, being a paramedic, is being stuck in the box,
I'm
you
like,
know.
you're stuck on the box.
Yeah,
and I'm like, ugh. Well, I worked for a smaller department where you rotated. And some of these bigger agencies, like, you know, like FDNY, they're their
Oh,
own
yeah.
separate EMS.
Right.
So, but it was a rewarding career. I still, unfortunately, use it today. I've used it plenty of times on the water.
I'm sure you have.
You know, as a captain. And, but it was a hectic but a great career.
So being a fireman, like, take our viewers through some of those early times for you, you know, when you first got on the job, and tell me what that was like for you. Like,
So
the camaraderie, the fire department.
The first thing that sticks out was I got assigned to a house. I remember my on-duty lieutenant took me aside and said, the chief wants to meet with you. And next thing I know, I'm in front of the chief, and he looked at me and said, well, you know what your job is for the first year. And I says, well, you know, I gave the textbook, yes, sir, blah, blah, blah,
Right.
blah.
Whatever you tell me to do.
And he goes, no. He goes, your job is to make sure that your shift has all the coffee it needs, or anything they want to eat for 1 year.
Yeah.
I'm like, 10-4 on that. I could still quote you my shift's coffee order. I think that ended up at the end of the year. I brought all the receipts. I think it was like $3,800. I brought it to I wanted to write it off on my taxes.
That's all. I'll tell you, the firehouse coffee is a, man, it's a certain thing, is a culture. I remember, first of all, the absolute best cup of coffee I ever had in any firehouse was in Passaic, New Jersey, the Passaic Firehouse. That coffee was legendary. And I said, how did you make this? And what is in this? And they're like,
Yeah.
this is a house secret and nobody knows it. I'm like, man, because that was like next level. The guy's like, you want a cup of coffee? As soon as I got there, I'm like, yeah, I love it. I'm like setting up all my stuff, you know. I'm like, yeah, I definitely love a cup of coffee. I had a cup of coffee, and, you know, from one of their mugs off the counter. And I was like,
all different colors.
Yeah. I remember drinking and going, it literally stopped me in my tracks. I'm like, what is this?
Right.
I'm like, So it's a certain thing, man. It's definitely a thing.
Well, it's changed. It's kind of changed a little bit. I still visit firehouses now, and it's changed a little bit. You still get. I remember we were forced to all eat at that table.
Oh yeah.
And if you had any differences or you had any discussions that needed to be, you had to hash that out at the table at where I was. And
well, all the world's problems are solved at that table.
That table.
You know, it's funny you mention that, because I know I've talked to guys at different houses, and I've had that luxury of going around the country talking to different guys and girls, and I've heard that a lot of firefighters that are not at the kitchen table, they're doing their own thing. So you have like 2 or 3 guys or girls at the table, and then someone's off doing their own thing. And I think that's no good, man. That's something that has to get fixed.
And that's
everyone's got.
I was in a local department around here a few weeks ago, and that was the way it was. I was like,
it's crazy.
You guys eating chow? You guys only have 2 people on duty? He goes, no, we have 7. I'm like, well, where are they? They're supposed to be at the table.
Wow.
And they're looking at me like, what are you talking about?
Yeah, it's a cultural thing. I really think it's a cultural thing, and for me anyway, every house I've ever visited, you know, doing this show, man, and we had that opportunity to sit around the kitchen table. The best content was always off camera. It was always the stuff we talked about.
That's how you dealt with the runs too.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know, that was your visit to the psychologist, was going to the table. So, Yeah, I wish it was still around. It is in
Yeah.
some of the old in the houses. Some of the traditions are still there, but it's different.
Yeah,
It's
and
definitely
I,
different.
I say, it's up to the new generation of firefighters out there, the ones you that are listening right now and watching. It's your responsibility to fix that. I mean, it's get people together again and get them
Right.
around the kitchen table. I think that's a huge thing, and it goes. It should go without saying, but it's something that's lost a
Yeah,
little
it
bit.
was a second nature.
Yeah.
It was, and the funny thing was, is you open the cabinet and all the dishes are different.
Yep.
All the play, everything's different.
Yeah.
Tupperware is all over the place.
You got that
Everything's-
one guy's cup. It's
You
like
got,
looks like it's been through war.
Yeah, and then you hide somebody's mug, and that's the end of the world.
It's funny because it's in every house, right? Every house across volunteer career, it doesn't make a difference.
No.
It's all the same stuff. So you remember your early ons at the fire department, and you had this awesome career where you got to do a lot of different things that some cats may never have an opportunity to do, which was cool. Talk me
Right.
through some of those specialties and how you got that.
And again, one of the really special moments for us, when I say us, our group, I was on one of the dive teams, and next thing you know, my group is in a hangar at Air Station Cape Cod, and now I'm going to date myself. I was flanked by Senator Kennedy on my left, and I had Kerry on my right,
Oh
and
yeah,
they
you're going
wouldn't
back.
tell us what we're there for. And we've got all the Coast Guard Lear jets behind us. It was a good drop. The next thing you know, we're teaming up with we were the first civilian dive agency to team up with the military.
It's awesome and intimidating.
Yeah, it was like, I'm standing next to a master sergeant, and he's looking at me like, "What? We ain't gonna work with you."
Yeah.
And we're looking at them like, "We ain't working with you." And then next thing you know, I got some cool photos of me in full dive gear, hanging tethered underneath a Jayhawk helicopter, being swung out
That is awesome.
to a ship in Buzzards Bay that was sinking. Because I guess the premise is we were penetrating the water, and the Coast Guard doesn't. They have their rescue swimmers.
Right.
And so a funny story so firefighters and military guys, even though we absolutely love them, and thank you for your service, and this country's just because of the military guys,
100%.
but we did not get along. We were encroaching in their aircraft,
Yeah.
and
Well, you got two alpha capabilities, right?
Yeah.
So they're just two alpha just smashing into each other. You're gonna have that.
and we were, us, we're joking.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
they're serious by the book. Everything has to be done. So I
Right.
remember the first training session that I always used to carry a throwaway waterproof little paper Kodak camera in my turnout gear.
That's smart, man.
And then I used to always put it in my BC, my vest, when I was diving. So I remember I had it in there, and now I'm hanging under this helicopter over Buzzards Bay. So I've got a rescue swimmer looking down the tether to make sure everything's going, and he was like a cat on a tin roof. He was all nervous. Next thing I know, I swing upside down, and I take the camera out, and I'm taking pictures of him and the underside of
That is so cool.
this helo. So next thing I know, I'm in the Master Chief's office, and I'm getting ripped, and the deputy chief was called down there, and he come down, and everybody's getting ripped, and I'm like, I don't work for you, I work for him. And that didn't go over big. And so I almost got released because of that, from
Wow.
that program. And about a year and a half later, I get this picture. One of my guys takes this picture at Homeland Security headquarters at Air Station Cape Cod. And I'm looking at it, and I'm like, it's a life-size picture of the underside of a Jayhawk helicopter. And I took it. And they've got it hanging at Air Station Cape Cod, Homeland Security,
That is so fun.
after I almost got ripped.
You should be like, hey, you owe me for that photograph.
Yeah,
Where's my
royalties?
credit? Yeah. That's
So
awesome.
anyway, that was pretty funny, and I tell that story, and I got some cool pictures hanging under. That was a really cool thing.
That's
to do.
awesome, man.
So
It's funny you mentioned that because I tell guys all the time, guys and girls, I'm like, listen, take pictures, man. Capture memories. I was smart, and guys used to bust my balls relentlessly at my volunteer department back when I first started back in '88.
yeah,
I always had a camera, man. I just always had a
Right.
35 millimeter camera on me, and I would just take random photos of guys and girls and stuff, and they'd always bust my balls about it, right?
oh, absolutely.
But today, And 2024, those pictures are worth memories, man. And some of those guys are gone; they're no
Right.
longer with us. We lost guys, and now to have those pictures, it's like
Absolutely.
so glad I did it. It's not so funny now, Like,
No.
it's good that we did it.
So
Yeah, I encourage that.
I mean, speaking about losing guys, I never like doing any of these without mentioning the Worcester guys. That was the event that I was attached to, basically, and how I was attached was all I did was just take a few days off and go cover their house while they unfortunately had to bury those 6 guys.
Right, right.
But I always mention those guys. That was another really vivid memory of my career, was having to unfortunately cover for those guys. But
It makes you realize now how quickly things can change, man.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So I always like to mention them.
Yeah, without a doubt, man. It's definitely something that we mention them on the show, and we always spotlight that. It's a traumatic event that changed our lives, and it's just in a second,
Right.
Everything changes.
And of
man.
course, not to forget about 9/11. Basically,
No, of course,
my
yeah.
involvement with 9/11 was we were deployed to Logan Airport, and I sat in Logan Airport for five days waiting to be deployed.
Yeah.
And that was probably one of the most frustrating, aggravating. I think at some point somebody suggested to walk to New York because, and then we got called back because the hazmat team was just inundated with anthrax,
Right,
calls,
right.
and all that other stuff.
It's
So-
a crazy time.
But that was we were really disappointed that we weren't able to go help those guys.
Yeah, that's the worst part about being in emergency services, where you have sometimes you have to sit on your hands and you
Right.
can't do something. That's frustrating, especially when you can make a difference or do something that's
Right.
going to change the outcome. So the fire service was good to you, man. You had some good memories with that. Explain to me how. First of all, how did you end up from ice and snow to sunny Florida, and then on top of that, explain to me what fish responders is all about and how it all came to be.
So the Florida thing, a long time ago, I had my best friend, who had at the time three boys under the age of 5, just picked up and moved to Florida. And he's like, "You got to come." And I'm like, I just didn't have, I didn't have the balls to do it. And I was single at the time, and he did it with a full family and
Wow.
loved it. Ended up working for the power company down here. But I traveled down here probably every 2 months.
Wow.
Just to come down here to fish and hang out. And, someday, someday led to like 20 years. And then when I retired, we moved and lived off the grid in northern Maine.
Okay.
I had a 5-year-old at that time.
Still cold.
It was awesome. It was cool. Cool. It was neat because I was really into hunting, and I was, I had 130 traps for trapping.
Wow.
And it was great. It was a good place to get my son kind of acclimated, and he had his dog and all that. It was great. And then segue into fish responders. I had a bunch of companies call me and say, "Hey, why don't you come to Florida? We're interested in backing you. Come do something down here on the fishing end of it." So I remember I went and picked up a U-Haul, the biggest U-Haul they had at the time, backed it in the driveway up in northern Sangerville, Maine. It had like 600 people in it. And my wife was like, "What's that for?" I says, "We got 3 days, we're moving." I says, "If it doesn't fit in the U-Haul, we're not taking it." And she was, God love her, she's like, went with the flow and loved it. And she's like, "Okay, that's exciting. Let's do this." And
Wow.
rented a house sight unseen online and
Wow.
moved down here. So
Holy cow.
that's how we started. That's how I got to Florida, and I love it. I have no desire unless it's the Bahamas. Or,
Yeah, it's a special place, man.
Yeah,
Once it gets a hold of you, man, it does get a
Yeah.
hold of you for sure. I mean, I love it here. It's for those who don't know, I moved out here little less than 3 years ago, and it's been interesting, that's for sure. It's been a different transition, going from from New Jersey and that seasonal weather to Florida, where the first year, the first summer in Florida, it's like when it really hits you, like, wow, I live in a different country.
Yeah, no,
It's wild.
I love busting their balls up north during the winter time when they're getting snow. And
Oh
I
yeah,
love
yeah,
the seasons, and it's
yeah.
I'm drinking a margarita and it's 80 degrees out.
There's a couple buddies, man. They'll send me pictures of them snow plowing in the
Yeah,
firehouse parking
digging
lot
out
or
a hydrant.
digging out a hydrant. I'm like, man, that
Yeah.
looks like it sucks.
That's awesome. Is your engine's cavitating because your line's frozen.
So the charter part of it, so how does it work? People call you up and you take them out a specific place, or
Okay,
they get
so
to choose?
so real quick, a shout out to JP Shawowski Art. He's the one who developed my logo. He's a full-time firefighter out in Seattle, and he does some big-time fire departments.
That's awesome.
Their logos, and he is
Because you got an awesome logo, by the way.
he's the king.
Yeah.
Well, that's JP. So
That's cool.
I just put a couple of little things in there, and he went nuts with it. And
That's cool.
it's and the fish responders deal is a pretty I'm pretty proud of my fire department background, and it certainly explodes on that logo. But so the fish responder thing is you can go to fishresponder.com and you can check out my whole site and see what that's all about, and the catches and nature. And so I wanted to start. I started the thing for kids, and I wanted to get the kids more involved in fishing. So that's where I started Fish Responders, and the fire department thing was kind of cool because what kid doesn't want to be a firefighter? So they kind of went hand in hand. And then I'm like, all right, well, I'm a master captain.
That's awesome.
And I'm a licensed guide, and let's do the charter thing. And because when you start the charter thing, I don't care how much experience you have in fishing, you're always going to doubt yourself, and you're like, are you ready to bring people out? And you're all constant. When I take somebody out, even today, which I'm real comfortable with, I want you to have a better time and catch more fish than I've ever caught.
Right. That's the whole idea. Yeah.
And any charter captain will tell you when your client catches the first redfish, you just exhale. It's
Okay,
sigh
relief.
Now we're having fun. Now, because I wasn't having fun a couple of minutes ago because you're not catching. But
right.
So the whole fish responder thing is I'm a charter captain now, and now I've included some other services is because of the influx of people moving here. They don't know how to run boats. They don't know how to back them down a boat ramp.
Right.
Well,
That's true. I've seen some pretty hysterical videos.
Certified by FWC to teach the boater safety class.
Oh, that's cool.
So I incorporate that. So that's another service that I do. And
that's great.
So I don't do too. I do a little less now because my son is 17 and he's about ready to. He's going to leave somewhere, and so I try to get him on the boat.
Does he got the itch or what? Think he's going to do it? Or what?
Yeah, he's. Do what? Fishing or
firefighting?
No, absolutely not. Absolutely not. He, well, for one, he's my hero. 17 years old, that kid has accomplished more than 99.9% of adults have accomplished in their whole lifetime.
That is so cool.
I guess it skips a generation. So he's going to end up working probably for NASA or for SpaceX.
Wow.
That's what he's flying planes, and he's getting his license right now.
So he might actually make money in this world. Then. Yeah, he's not going to be a firefighter.
Yeah, he's gonna. Yeah,
gotcha.
He's going to be valued.
We all know we don't do this for the money. Everybody knows that.
So no, he's an exceptional,
good for him,
talented kid, and it's
just awesome.
Yeah, I don't know where he comes from. Probably it's my wife. So he's like I said, he's my hero on this whole thing. I just love watching him go and what he accomplishes, and some of his. One of the things is not to get too hung up on this, but one of the things is. So he's an Eagle Scout. He's a second lieutenant in Civil Air Patrol. He's won all these awards that astronauts have held.
Wow.
That's
pretty incredible.
His schooling is second to none. But so another thing I have in the works is there's a school called the Lighthouse.
Okay.
It encompasses. They're in Citrus County, they're in Pasco County, and they're in Hernando County. And I've spoken to the director on possibly taking them out and teaching them how to fly fish. I first said just fishing, and they were like, "Would you they were kind of surprised that I was willing to even get involved with something like that.
Right, because the kids are blind. It's
Well, I
like
was kind of taken aback.
Right, right,
And
right.
so then I was like, okay, well, not only do I want them to learn how to conventional fish, why don't we teach them how to fly fish?
That's so cool.
You know, and they were just taken aback that, you know, I suggested it, and I'm looking forward to getting some of the companies I work with, such as Ross and Abel reels, Scott fly rods, and Airflow, some of the best American-made products out there, in the hands of some of these kids.
You know, immediately what I thought of when you mentioned that is everything with them is feel. You know, like so they're touching the line and feeling the line and vibrations of the line. That makes sense. That blind kids would. That's pretty cool.
So I'm excited. You know,
Yeah,
as long
it's
as
awesome,
they come
man.
away with you know, having done something they've never done,
Right, right.
and had fun with it, and I actually just hooked up with a freeze dried candy company, Little Dippers, freeze dried candies. They're local,
Really?
and so we're gonna do a collaboration. We're gonna come together and kids fishing. Candy.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah.
So it's gonna be a cool
hand in
thing.
hand. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, so I'm excited about it.
It's cool that you have all these things that you're doing, and everything we've talked about so far. It encompasses you telling me about you giving back, and I respect the hell out of that because
Well, that does more for me.
Yeah.
You know, I feel selfish. To be honest with you, I think it's therapy for me. I get a ton out of it.
right.
You know, and I get my son involved.
Yeah, it's so cool.
There's a place in town called the Angelus. It was founded by Charlie Daniels, and he's been donating his time there since he's been 12, and it's severely handicapped young adults that a 24-hour care at this facility. They live there.
You got a pretty exceptional kid.
Oh, he's amazing. He actually took one of them, Chris.
At his age, man.
Chris Fox. He gave him a little bit of an earful when he found out he was an Eagle Scout, and said, you know, I was really close to getting my Eagle Scout. And my son was like, well, we got to change that. And it actually pissed my son off to the point where he got all the certifications to become an instructor through Boy Scouts. And for 2 years, every Wednesday for 2 hours, he tutored that guy and got him his Eagle Scout.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow, that's incredible, man.
So they both got their Eagle Scout at the same time.
That's
kind of cool.
That's
So,
super cool, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, you got an exceptional kid.
Yeah,
there.
he's he thinks of other people, and he wears off on me. He teaches me, so
Very cool.
it's cool.
So it's awesome you came to talk to me, man. This is it's pretty awesome that you have all these adventures going on and that you had this start in the fire service. Did you ever think, like looking back, that this would ever be a thing for you?
Well, while I was in the fire service, I always was involved in fishing. So, I mean, I was on tournaments. I was sponsored by Triton Mercury Boats at the time. And that's a whole nother story how I got that. That was the guy that made those decisions actually coded in front of me.
Holy cow.
And we got him back. Bob
Wow.
Medeiros is in the Bass Hall of Fame. And I was there for a meeting to become a member because I needed to be in a sanctioned club to go get a pro card.
Holy cow.
And he coded in front of me. And we got him back. And then 2 days later, I had a sponsorship.
Wow, imagine that. Wow.
So I was like, sometimes it's better to be lucky than good. But
Holy cow, that's incredible.
so that was another thing that happened. So, and we became very good friends over the years. And he was my mentor through the Bass tours, and just coming over to flats right now is basically an easy transition for a bass guy. And so to answer your question, I kind of did know that I was going to be over here fishing. I didn't know that I was going to have so much support for some great companies.
Yeah.
And people that wanted to come on board and help me do what I've been doing, and seeing the support, you know, and it's not me. Some of these companies get involved with my son. They see what he does, and hey, can we, CCA Florida, Coastal Conservation of Florida, is like, we want to sponsor his Eagle Scout project. And,
Wow, that's neat, man.
So I've had a lot of great support, and I'm always thinking of a new way to do something and perfect something, and
Yeah, you stay young that way.
and it's I'm blessed to be in Florida, and I love everything about the people in Florida, and I just love the fishing and the people I meet doing it. So
That's awesome. Well, I appreciate you coming out and talking to me, brother. And
my pleasure.
It was an honor to finally meet you. We've been
Talking
chatting back and forth for so long. Finally figuring out a way. I mean, this is back when I was in Jersey. We're like, we should meet, man. I love what you're doing, and it took me moving to Florida to actually make that happen. But here we are.
There we are.
But everyone, thanks so much for popping into the show again and taking a look at another episode. It's exciting to be back. What better to be back with this episode here in Florida, and we have more to come. So make sure you subscribe if you haven't done that already. Subscribe to the YouTube channel so you can see when new shows are coming out. All right, we'll talk to you soon. Take care. See you, bro.